there's the hero's journey, then there's the mentor's journey, and then eventually there's the surrender journey.
Can you go through what those are? So the hero's journey, the mentor's journey, and the surrender journey.
All right, so there's many different ways of breaking down the hero's journey, created by Joseph Campbell, not actually studied and found by Joseph Campbell, but always there through the beginning of time. The hero's journey, he was able to discover all the themes, right? And
Mhm.
but there's many ways of breaking it down. I'll break it down into really simple. Let's say there's the separation, the initiation, and the return. And I'll try to give you some highlights in that. And this
Sure.
separation, somebody separating from the old life, separating from who they think they are, separating from a town, separating from an idea. Luke Skywalker about to leave Tatooine, Mr. Anderson about to leave the real world and go into the Matrix. Kal-El about to leave Krypton and go into Earth. Bruce Wayne, Peter Parker, Wonder Woman, Wizard of Oz, doesn't matter. But then within this, so you see the separation, and then there's a call to adventure. Many times that person first resists the call.
Right.
Right? They resist the call. Like, I can't do this. But eventually they answer the call and the journey begins. And along that journey, they find allies, they pick up a wise mentor. You see this time and time again, be it Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda or Morpheus or uh, Clark Kent's dad or I forget Alfred for Bruce Wayne. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Uncle Ben for Peter Parker. You could go. It doesn't have to be heroes. It could go to Mark. We could go Disney. We can go the Bible. Okay, we could go Isaac, Abraham, Moses, Jacob, Christ himself. It does. You're going to see the hero's arc of a story. King Arthur, Harry Potter. You're going to constantly see the same theme pop up. When they meet the old wise mentor, they start being taught new skills, new ideas, new beliefs, new ways of seeing the world, new ways of behaving in the world, new powers that they didn't even realize that they had within them. Okay. And they have to go through some of these obstacles in life to refine their powers, but eventually they have to come against the dragon. They have to slay the dragon. Every movie will have its own dragon. Everyone will have its own villain. Darth Vader, Zod, the agent, and the agent in No More Friends. But I'm trying to put movies so people go, oh yeah, I see this now almost in everything,
Mhm.
and even in loving movies, from Good Will Hunting to Rudy to The Karate Kid, you're going to see the same theme. But when you have to slay the dragon, what the hero finally realizes was it's not the person, it's not the individual, it was the fear that they had within them to step up and actually do it. It was never the individual. And you slay the dragon and you return home the hero of the story, because you accomplished this amazing goal. Because you're not the hero because you slayed the dragon. You're the hero because you went through this amazing transformation of adventure. You took a leap of faith. But then eventually it's time for you to pass on that wisdom, to pass on that knowledge, to pass on those powers, and you go on the mentor's journey.
Before you jump into the mentor's journey, I just want to point something that out that I thought was really interesting. The stories you described, and you very eloquently used movies to describe them, really resonates with me because what you're sort of describing from a writing standpoint is the difference between plot and story. So the
Yes,
plot is we have to slay the dragon, but the story is that transformational experience that the character goes through.
you're 100% right. Transformation, adventure. Then there's the mentor's journey, which comes with its own separation, initiation, and return, but you're in a different role and you're having to learn how to pass on the wisdom and how to know when not to be involved and when to be involved, and also how to translate and articulate these gifts that you've been taught in a way that somebody else can actually receive them. A good example of what it would not look like are my greatest hero, athletic wise, who I've had the blessing to get to know, is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is the first one to say in any interview, I'm not a coach. I'm not a coach. He led differently and he leads his life differently, right? And that does not mean he's probably one of the greatest leaders of all time. He mentored Kobe because they had the same blood, they had the same identity, right? And that's where you could, but he's not a coach, right? And you start realizing who you are on this mentor's journey. Are you the coach? Are you Jordan to Kobe? Are you Obi-Wan to Luke? Are you super involved and you're actually there the entire time? But you have to go on that journey to find out what your skills are to pass on this knowledge, because if you don't share it, you lose it. Period. If you don't share the wisdom, you lose the wisdom. That's just the law of life. You have to pass it on if you want to keep it. Right? You
Are you
have to.
keeping it for yourself, do you mean, or are you keeping it through legacy of this next generation?
You could say you're keeping it for your own self, for your own connection to God, for your own legacy. That goes into that person's identity, right? And that's the mentor's journey. That's the discovery path.
So
That's
that's
how
different. That's different for different people and how they experience that. So
100%.
okay. So we have the hero's journey, we have the mentorship journey, and then the third one was surrender.
And then there's the surrender journey. And that's again, your separation, initiation, return, but that's with your higher power. That's with God. That's with a greater, deeper calling, in the number one relationship. Now, obviously, you can have some of these all at the same time, but it's really healthy to see these stages of life. You could explore all three at the same time.